I have a motion from council to adopt the agenda of December the 15th for the regular meeting.
Are we going to make any amendments to the agenda tonight with respect to Mr. Powell, or do we
This
just
way
wait?
we can discuss later.
Okay, so we should maybe amend the agenda to reflect that now.
You want to amend the agenda?
Your worship, you could just, council could just put out a resolution to allow Mr. Paul to speak and the presentation comes up to that point, so there would be no need to.
Oh, okay.
Do we need to make an amendment to make a motion for council to take part in the employee benefits?
Do we want to
That can come up in
That could
somebody's
be
report.
unfinished business.
discuss
In the report?
Yeah, in the report.
In case the motion was put forward by Councilor
I'll second the
Thompson.
motion.
Seconded by Councilor Butters. So now, we're going to adopt the readings, the minutes of the special meeting.
Point of order.
Oh,
We
sorry.
need to vote on that.
Yes.
so-
Yes.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, so we're going to can we adopt the minutes of the special meeting in camera from November 21st?
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes.
I'll second
Councilor
that.
Butters, second, Councilor Ross. All in favor? Also, we have council adopt special meeting going in camera from December the 8th. Motion.
Make a
Councilor
motion
Butters.
to adopt the minutes.
I'll second.
Seconded, Councilor Hammond. All in favor? Carried. And then to adopt the inaugural meeting minutes on December the 1st.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor? Carried. Now we will deal with the reports and questions and inquiries from members of council regarding corporate officers' report. Regarding the verbal reports of council.
I guess this is where you go around and ask each individual member.
So do we have any reports from any councilors?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Recently, I attended the AGM of the Boundary Soccer Association, and they were happy that they were able to fill all their board positions for this year, although they are still seeking volunteers to help with the coaching and field setup for the spring season. So if there's any members of the public that would like to come and help out with that, it's a great program for the kids. And also on December the 4th and 5th, I attended a workshop at Christina Lake put on by Paragon Strategic Services Limited. The workshop focused on council's roles and procedures, but more importantly, it was a chance for us to do some team building with our new council. It afforded those of us in attendance a chance to get to know each other, as well as the councils from Nelson, Roslyn, and Castlegar who also attended the workshop. On December 8th, council met with staff to learn our new computer system and our orientation manual, and I've spent a lot of time in the past week reading contracts and minutes from previous in-camera meetings to familiarize myself with the pertinent issues to council. Today also council decided to put up a posting for the position of a permanent CAO, with submissions being closed as of January the 31st. And I'd also like to discuss with council and staff the possibility of opting out of the CETA program. This was brought up briefly at our training session at the lake. And I'm wondering if it is possible and if it would help us to support local businesses more often. And that's the end of my report, so just open that up to discussion with council, if there's anyone that has information on that.
I don't know enough about it.
I can speak to it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The CETA program, I think you might have called it, it's basically called the Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement between Canada and the EU. Many countries in the EU are starting to realize that it's a bad deal and are opting out of it as countries, including Germany. But there are municipalities across Canada, as a leaked document came to light about 2 years ago. This is a behind closed door deal between the federal government, the Canadian government, and the EU. And since the leaked document came out, and it is quite legit, several organizations in Canada have been taking action against it to bring it to light, to get people, to motivate people, including privatizing our postal system and gutting our healthcare system. and making it illegal for municipalities to put tenders out and favor local businesses, local tradespeople. So many municipalities across Canada have opted out of CETA. I think it's it's a great idea. And basically what you do is you write a letter to the federal government, to Stephen Harper, and say, thank you, but no thank you. As a municipality, we don't want to be part of CETA, and we do not want to comply with the rules that CETA will download right down to our municipal government, which will determine how we even tender our projects, even to the point of the food that is served at the, whether or not we want to support the wooden spoon. So, yeah, I think it's a great idea. I can look into it a little bit more if you like.
Do we have that report?
The CETA report? Oh, it's all over the internet now. I can send staff a copy, a brief draft of the agreement and its impact on municipalities and communities, and based on that information, we can decide whether or not we want to recommend, put a motion to council and write a letter to upload. I think it's a great idea. Thanks, Julia. It's very progressive.
Is there a timeline?
I think sooner the better, because they are starting to wrap it up right now.
Councilor.
So you say there's a timeline. Is this something that we could put on the agenda for our next meeting?
Yes.
To give everybody a chance to research it?
Between now
and
and-
for staff to bring a recommendation?
I'll get on it.
So do we have enough timeline?
I think so. I mean, who knows? I mean, they might decide they're going to sign the final agreement on December 23rd when everybody's on holidays. Right now, I know it's still being negotiated, but it's in the final stages of negotiations, and it will soon be signed.
Thank you. Any other reports?
I'd just like to make a motion then that we refer this issue to staff and bring it back at our next regular meeting of council for a decision.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to speak to that.
Start.
Yeah. I could refer to staff, but I think it's a pretty huge complex issue. What I was going to do was I was going to take the draft document, which is very easy for us to digest because the agreement itself is hundreds and hundreds of pages long. So there are draft documents that are pertinent information that we would need to know. So I was just going to funnel it through staff and back to council. I didn't want to impose extra workload on staff.
I think that would work, because then you can do it to staff and you can just attach to the middle from.
Then they can funnel it to us. It just as a point of information for us,
Sure.
so we can make an informed decision.
So we'll leave the motion as carried.
With that understanding, as long as we have that understanding, yes. Okay.
Any other reports? Councilor.
Thank you, Your Worship. On December 4th and 5th, I, along with other members of council, attended an orientation workshop from the councils facilitated by Tracy Lawrenson. Ms. Lawrenson practiced municipal law at one time, but now is a consultant to municipalities across British Columbia. Also in attendance at this workshop were council members and administrators from the city of Nelson, the city of Rossland, and a newly elected councillor and the administrator from Castlegar. This orientation workshop was very informative and will be useful to me in going forward as a councillor. I enjoyed riding on the city's float in the Santa Claus Parade the evening of December 5th and tossing out candies to the children who were there to watch. The Christmas lights displayed at Jarwood Park are absolutely beautiful, and I have heard many, many comments echoing that. I attended the employee Christmas dinner on December 12th and must compliment those who organized this most enjoyable evening. The food was good and so was the company. I have reviewed the City of Grand Forks Procedure Bylaw number 1946 and offer the following comments. Clause 12.31F provides that reports, questions, and inquiries from members of council are verbal. It was always my practice when I served on council previously to write my reports and then email them to the Deputy Corporate Officer. I believe that this assisted her in that she did not have to interpret what I reported. When members of council attend educational seminars and/or conferences, UBCM, AKBLG, and FCM, there are often concurrent workshops that different members of council attend and subsequently report on. When these reports are given verbally, it is open to interpretation when recorded in the minutes and may not actually accurately reflect the councilor's intention. Further, there is no backup documentation for future use should an individual want to refer to if they want clarification on a specific item in a councilor's report. Therefore, I wish to give notice that at the January 12th, 2015 regular meeting, I will be bringing forward a proposed amendment to the procedure bylaw that will require written reports of a councilor's attendance at a publicly funded conference or educational workshop to be provided no later than the second regular meeting of council following such conference or workshop. That is my report.
Thank you, Councilor Thompson. Do we have any others? Councilor Crowe?
Yeah, on the 11th, I attended the inaugural meeting for the regional district of Kootenay Boundary. There wasn't a lot of business as it was more about the election of the chair and the vice chair. So Grace McGregor from Area C was elected as the chair, and Linda Worley from Area B, also a rural director, was elected as vice chair. They're putting their process in place to see which director will sit on which committee, and we should know that in a week or two. I did get appointed to be vice chair of the Kootenay Boundary Regional Hospital District, which doesn't really exist. So we have our West Kootenay Boundary Regional Hospital District. Before that existed, with the amalgamation with Central Kootenay, we had our own, and it's still on the books because we were paying off debt. So there's no real committee, but there's going to be one more meeting, and they needed a chair and a vice chair for it because I believe the debt is paid off, and we might even be able to possibly give some money back to the residents and stuff. But yeah, it's a weird little committee that is there and won't be in a while. And that was about it.
Thank you. Any others?
Well, I just want to reiterate what Councillor Thompson said about the December 4th and 5th workshop, team building workshop was incredibly valuable and enjoyable and fun. And the parade was fantastic and the light up. So I think we've all of us have done the same thing since reading the reports and the procedures.
Thank you. Councilor.
Well, to keep things brief, basically, yeah, I've been to all the same meetings and trainings and workshops and orientations, and they've been absolutely fantastic. Last Thursday, I attended a meeting for the Agricultural Society, for which I am the vice president, and having discussion with my colleagues in the Agricultural Society, we decided that I would step down as vice president of the Agricultural Society. But I would like to pass on to council that the Agricultural Society is very interested in having somebody from council sit on their board or attend their board meetings and their meetings as a representative other than myself, so that I can distance myself from the Agricultural Society. I'll remain a member of the Agricultural Society, but I'll no longer be on the board.
Thank you. So I guess we're ready to address the recommendations from staff for
No,
decision,
we gotta-
unless there's more discussion.
We've got to
Receive
receive the
Yeah.
report. And do you have anything to report?
No, I have nothing.
Okay.
This time.
So then I would make a motion
Please
that
make a motion, please, to receive the report.
Yeah. the
Councilor
verbal
Thompson.
reports.
Councilor Ross. All in favor? So carried. Recommendations from staff for decisions will now be presented. Acting Chief Administrator for the Corporate Strategic Plan 2015 to 18.
Your worship, this was basically the same report that I presented at the committee of the whole this morning, where staff is considering, or council is considering staff to be able to choose a facilitator for the strategic planning session. Traditionally is held usually the end of January, beginning of February, something like that. And so in accordance with our purchasing policy, we will have some verbal quotes to find out what kind of facilitator best suit us, and we have some quotes already, and it's just a matter of determining which one. And quotes are ranging in between about $5,000 and $10,000 is what we're looking for. Now, the ones that are a little bit higher, as per the committee of the whole, where there was some input, where there was possibly some community input for that. Some of the ones that have a little bit more expensive program do allow for surveys, which we could possibly put a survey out to the community ahead of time for the strategic planning. So again, that would be something that the cost might be a little bit higher, but it might be what council is planning on achieving if they want to have some community input into that program.
Have a motion.
Just discussion, Mr. Mayor. I think it is important that the community have some input into our strategic plan, but I think when the surveys go out that they need to be very pointed, and I'm sure these people have experience with doing that the questions need to be specific and not broad and general, so that, and even leaving room for comment so that members of the public really feel heard in how they want this to proceed.
Mr. Mayor, perhaps we can reduce the cost some by utilizing the AKBG-LG Community Engagement Report that was done in the spring, which had, I think Grand Forks had 63 participants, and they gave the input of what they wanted to see in Grand Forks, what things they thought needed to be changed. Maybe we could utilize that report in our strategic plan, because there is some extensive input in there from the different communities that participated in Grand Forks. They were all separated out as to what Grand Forks was important to Grand Forks people, what was important for Cranbrook and Fruitvale, the three pilot communities that participated in that program.
Yeah.
So would you choose that as an alternative to facilitator, or work in conjunction?
Or work in conjunction, or take that information that's they've summarized it up very well as to percentages of things that what needed to be looked at, what citizens wanted to see happen, what they thought could be changed. I think it's a good resource tool for us to utilize.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes, just a point of clarification, I think you just did. Is that what you're suggesting that we do rather than another survey? Is just take the information contained, because it's fairly recent, within that document and use it when we're doing our strategic planning?
Mm-hmm.
So expand further on that.
You want me to expand?
No, I said it. So
yeah.
you're to expand further on the documentation we already have. And
Well, yeah.
You utilize that.
yes, use it
As a
as a
resource.
base and as a resource.
And if we don't feel we have enough input, sorry, Councilor
No, I
Thompson.
was gonna say, you still have to bring in a professional facilitator to assist in the planning process, and puts it all together,
So we can use that as a base model, as a guidance.
Yeah, for if there's
For the
things as a
facility.
council that we agree with that should be incorporated into our
Councillor
plan.
Ross?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not familiar with, I've read the report, but I can't remember. Did organizations participate in that as well, or was it just individuals?
Individuals.
Yeah, I think the organizations in this town are fairly important. The Agricultural Society put forward quite a comprehensive research project, not only studying food security, but hunger and homelessness issues in the region, in the entire boundary region. And we not only sought out the advice and recommendations and needs of individual community members, but from organizations as well. So we heard from Beths, we heard from church groups, we heard from women's groups, we heard from daycares and schools and different, and I think organizations often have a finger on the pulse of particularly members of our society, our community that are more marginalized and don't often go and fill out these surveys or participate in meetings that they would consider high level. So I would hope that we can get input from organizations that represent these folks.
Because they all have different interests as well.
They have different intent and they really, the seniors, the youth, the people at risk,
So have a motion. Issue.
I'll make a motion that council directs staff to choose a facilitator to hold a workshop session that will define council's strategic plan for 2015 to 2018.
Councilor Butler, do I have a second?
Second.
For discussion, because of our discussions on a survey, and I take Councillor Ross's comments with respect to inviting organizations and others, rather than, we've got the individual comments in the AKBLG report, but to survey these organizations as well. Now, the survey for the AKBLG, were there specific areas that people were asked to comment on, or? I've read it, but it's been a while, so.
It was on economic, social, cultural, recreational, environment, governance, and then other. And it ranged anything from issues that were important to Fruitvale, like backyard chickens, to the deer, food supply, food security, provisions of services, etc. So it could have encompassed anything.
So the same questions could be for,
Sent out.
sent out to those organizations, and as a friendly amendment, could we include that as part of your resolution?
Councilor Ross.
Yeah, I think that resolution is fine just the way it is, because we're directing our staff to put together the strategic planning workshop. How that comes together, I think, is another resolution, or those are the details within the resolution. This is just giving them direction, and how that is operationalized, I don't think that has to come in the form of the resolution, or it has to be in the resolution.
So we have a motion on the table, all in favor? Carried. We will now have the Manager of Development and Engineering Services.
I just make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we allow William Powell to speak to this issue. Mr. Powell has some pertinent information that will help clarify this issue for us. I believe we need a unanimous vote of council to allow him to speak on that.
All in favor? Carried.
A second.
Councilor Ross. Apologies. Mr. Paul.
Sorry.
Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Council.
And selector.
My name is William Powell. Our company name is Aquazone. We're a Grand Forks company. And we recently purchased the business and moved it to Grand Forks last year. And the company's been in business for 60 years. Our business is microbial granulation technology. And it's used predominantly in the prairies, with some towns for over 50 years. Outlook, Saskatchewan, Weyburn, Saskatchewan. Those towns have been with us continually for 50 years. And our business is for decomposing sludge, wastewater management, and managing the outflow of water to meet environmental standards. I find it interesting to see what the city wants to do with the lagoon system. I have been in contact with the city for the last 3 years in reference to our business. Peter Gigliotti from Urban Systems presented to the council earlier in the year. I was advised by the city to meet with Peter, which I did. I met him on the 23rd of September. He heard what it is that our business does. He recommended that I give him names of towns that would support what I was saying. I provided Peter with 6 towns names, and he assured me that he would contact those towns and then he would recommend to council if the names were acceptable or the response was positive, that the council use our technology. I was in contact with Peter the last about 6 weeks ago. He had not pursued it. His response was he wanted to wait until the direction the city wanted to go in the next with the new council. I contacted him again recently, and I have not heard back from Mr. Peter Gigliotti from Urban Systems. But in this context, what we have to offer, and I'm sure there's very few people have heard of microbial granulation, but we as a society are unable to manually address many of our wastewater sludge management issues. And in this aspect, the City of Calgary has recently provided a $3 million grant to Dr. Andrew Tay. Dr. Andrew Tay is world-renowned. He's written books. He's lectured throughout the world. He's worked for the World Bank. Dr. Andrew Tay has agreed to work with us to use our technology as the cornerstone for his future research in this using a natural process to speed up the decomposition of wastewater, of sludge and wastewater. And where he's going with that is in today's world, pharmaceuticals and chemicals and chemical heavy metals is an issue that is causing problems in wastewater, in rivers and lakes caused by wastewater. He firmly believes that what we've got can provide solutions to many domestic and international wastewater issues. So I'm really very proud that we have a Grand Forks company that is in a position to make a difference in this world. If you Google wastewater, you'll find about 80% of the world's wastewater is untreated, mainly because we can no longer manually address these issues. And treatment plants have sludge issues, and fortunately for us, we have a solution. Is it the only solution? Maybe not. But it also leads on to something that I really would like the City of Grand Forks to think about, and that is when you speed up the decomposition of sludge, which is the process for decomposing it, you also release the biogases more quickly. This leads to the opportunity to collect the biogases to generate electricity. Fortunately, we had Olds College do an independent verification and found that when we do speed up the decomposition, the biogases are released 42% more quickly. I pursued this and found a gentleman that's been collecting biogas for 31 years, met with him, and I also believe it would put Grand Forks on the forefront of wastewater management with this technology. And so aspects related to the town and the lagoons, I would like to help and offer, and for the community to be more aware of what we have to offer. Anyone have any questions?
You talked about the gas emissions being captured and turned into electricity. How many, do you know how big that particular project was and how much power it produced?
The City of Grand Forks, as a guess, I don't have all the information of your inflows, cubic meters of water per day, but as a guide, the city of Grand Forks should be able to produce about 30 kilowatts an hour. And how the technology works is, it's quite an extensive subject, but it's quite simple. You just you cover the lagoons, you collect the methane, you pump it to a generator, and you generate electricity. And it is, the gentleman that I worked with is now deceased, but he has been doing it for 31 years, and he lectured in 13 countries, and is probably the most cost-effective way. I made a presentation for World Vision in Southern Africa, and for 60,000 people there, the cost was 3.8 million, and the income was 750,000 a year. So the numbers make sense. We have a project right now in Rwanda that's underway with a school, and I have 4 more projects probably proceeding in Rwanda, 2 jails and a landfill site.
Now, Paul, do these all produce electricity?
They will be, yes.
They will be? And what would, did you say 30 kilowatts an hour? What would that,
What does that equate to?
yeah,
Powering.
like, what would it power and for how long?
You do 30 kW by 24 by 365, and it gives you the answer.
Anyway.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, I should have, but.
No, I mean, would it power an industry or 3 or 4 homes or that's what
it would power quite a, I will give you answers, but it powers quite a bit of 30 kW is a lot. It's quite a lot of power. As far as house is concerned, I was asked to do a quote for 30,000 people in Ghana, and from their own wastewater, we were able to run the whole city from the electricity from that wastewater. But I would like, let's not get, the main aspect though, I feel is the cost-effective approach for cleaning up the lagoons. The aspect of renewable energy requires more work, but as a company we have 60 years of continuous success cleaning up wastewater, or just cleaning up, managing wastewater and dispersing of sludge.
Yeah, I didn't want to get off on the track for the electrical part of it, because that's a whole other ball game. So what does the product or the services actually do? Like, it's microbial, and is it like we have a lagoon that has sludge in it, right? So what will happen?
We introduce the product into the lagoon by hand.
Okay.
It's in water-soluble bags. It's aerobic and anaerobic, which means that it works with oxygen, without oxygen, and it speeds up the decomposition. It's specific to proteins, fats, cellulose, and carbohydrates, which is what sewage is made up of.
Okay.
So, and we speed up the decomposition of that sewage. So it converted, the nitrates are converted to nitrogen, the the biogases are released, the mineral nutrients are then released into the water. So you then finish up with your sewage becomes water, biogases, and mineral nutrients in the water. That's what you're left with.
So the sludge is gone?
Correct. We have hutterite colonies that have been irrigating the fields for 20 years, and they irrigate from wheel line systems directly out of a lagoon.
If you're,
Oh, sorry, I was just gonna ask, what is the cost advantage of using your system as compared to the manual process that I think we were planning on submitting a grant application for?
The city of Vibank, Saskatchewan, got a quote of $60,000 to remove their sludge, plus disposal of the sludge, which is possibly another $10,000. They bought $6,000 of product from us, and they're very happy. They've dispersed most of the sludge. We've had this happen with a number of towns, especially in Saskatchewan and Alberta.
Councillor Hammond.
If your process is accelerating the decomposition of the sludge and we don't have the capacity to capture that, the gases for electricity, how does it affect the greenhouse gases that are emitting?
The same way as when you disperse the sludge on the ground. There's biogases in sewage one way or another.
So it doesn't matter that it's being accelerated.
It is going to be released, or if you don't liquefy it, it then washes into streams and waterways. So it's for dairy farms, for example, that are dispersing the manure on the land. If it's not been liquid, it quite often washes into streams and waterways. So not only are you putting sewage into or organic matter into waterways, but you also releasing the biogases. They're getting released one way or another. Treatment plants are releasing biogases. Anytime you have sewage, whether it's municipal or contained livestock.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just wondering if the fact that it's being accelerated now is putting it into the atmosphere more rapidly, if it's going to cause more.
Yes, I don't say that it will happen more quickly, yes, but we cannot make more than what's already there.
Councillor Rose.
Oh, yeah, just questioning. So active enzymes in bacteria, as far as I know, bit of a science background, doesn't deal with heavy metals.
I don't know enough about the heavy metals aspect. Dr. Tay is the one, and it's a new area that he's pursuing. His research has shown and his documentation has shown, and he did this in Singapore, that he was successful at it.
At what stage?
Disposing of, addressing issues related to heavy metals and pharmaceuticals. Right now, our product is specific to sludge and to wastewater and making the outflow readings. If Dr. Tay, I can't promise that Dr. Tay can do that, but he tells us he can. But that's where microbial granulation technology is going, according to him.
Quick question, I'm assuming it's fully CSA approved.
We have been approved by the US EPA. We've been working in the States and in Canada, as I said, since 1954.
Do we have any questions?
Do you have a formal package that you can present to council?
Absolutely. Mr. Mayor, I understand that there has not been a lot of work done, publicity done on our product. The company has been dealing with 450 municipalities, as I said, some for over 55 or 50 years. We bought the company last year and bought it here, and I'm very passionate about the fact that I believe that this process can bring a lot of recognition to Grand Forks, and if there's an opportunity to work with the city and we can take this technology to not only to benefit many municipalities in Canada, but there is, you look at countries like Dominican Republic, 95% of their wastewater is untreated because they cannot afford to treat their wastewater through mechanical means. Indonesia, 70% of their above ground water and 75% of their underground water, it's reported that is polluted. They cannot find the technology or equipment to physically clean it up. By using a technology there where the microbial granulation will follow the food source and disperse it, opens a lot of doors for many developing countries that cannot afford the expensive capital infrastructure. And South Africa, for example, they had very good technology as far as treatment plants, etc. And the last 10 years, the treatment plants have been allowed to break down. Consequently, the rivers are heavily polluted, crocodiles are dying, hippos are dying. They have many issues, and that is happening in many parts of the world. And so for Grand Forks to have a product that can possibly address a lot of these issues. And I'll leave you with the fact that the UN states that fecal contaminated water is is causing more deaths than HIV, malaria, and measles combined. So fecal contamination of water is out of control as far as mechanical means is concerned. I believe we have a wonderful opportunity, and I would really like to do it with the city of Grand Forks if we can.
Can I just ask one more question, just for clarification? So we have the wastewater treatment plant, and we have the sewage lagoon. Your product would be used in the sewage lagoon
Correct.
only?
Correct.
And these microbials, or,
Bacteria and enzymes is fine.
thank you, they would go in and they would eat and disperse all of the sludge that's in there,
Yes.
and there would be nothing left behind?
You've got inflow coming all the time. Inorganic matter such as sand and dirt and aspects, no, we cannot. We're only specific to soft organic matter, which is sewage.
Nope. Time frame for the thing to actually work?
I'd have to get the numbers, but as example, in Zimbabwe, we cleaned up a 50 by 50 meter lagoon there. It had about 3.5 meters of sludge. It was a crust that was so solid you could walk on top of the crust, and we cleaned that up in 4 months. To say we're going to get 100%, there's going to be some residual probably from the inflow because you've got inflow all the time. But that climate is more conducive. It's a warm climate and there's less household chemicals. But I would see that we could disperse over the summer. The warm months are better. That we could disperse, I would say 90-95% of the sludge that's in the lagoon.
So would this be a service that your company would be providing to us, or would this be a product that the city would be purchasing and using ourselves as needed? Because I'm guessing that you wouldn't have to use it on a continuous basis.
Yes, it is. You need, for proper management, you do need to use it weekly. It's to address a problem, you need quite a lot more. Once the problem is fixed, most of our customers don't have treatment plants. All they have is lagoons. So they use this constantly, year in, year out, to have the successful outflow readings. A through flow is beneficial. So, yes, you do need it. Would it be something I sell to the, we do, that's what we do now. We sell to municipalities.
So
Would
that
I work with
our
the
own
city?
staff would be utilized.
On this particular project, if there's a way that I could work with the city, I know that CITIC offers grants for environmental issues. I would like to find a way to possibly get a grant where we work with the city. We take the responsibility, we remove the sludge, and then provided the city is happy with what we've done, then you pass so much cubic meter for having removed the sludge. But it would be in our benefit to find a way to work with the city, and I feel it's the city's benefit as well. Did I answer the question, Councillor, properly?
Well, I'm still curious about whether or not it's a product that we can purchase from you.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So would your company have to do an evaluation first before an assessment is made of what the requirements are, for example, for Grand Forks?
I would need to know the cubic meters of sludge in the lagoon. I'd like to know what the cubic meters inflow was. Yes, I would need to do homework.
And then only then could you establish a cost factor or an assessment?
Yes, I can.
I guess the only thing is if the city were to go work with you, with your company, we buy the product and it be our people that would be putting the product in the lagoon and.
Councillor, for this particular exercise, what I would like to do with the city, because what is happening here now is something that happens fairly regularly. People question us, say, prove it, prove it, prove it. The company has not done its homework in the past in providing independent verification. We've had old college verified. We've had 2 PhDs. There was Adrian Duncan did a PhD on the process in 1975 at UBC. We've had a lady write a PhD in Zimbabwe showing the outflow readings. I've got outflow readings from Outlook, Saskatchewan before and after. But to be able to verify that we have, on April the 1st, we have 3 meters of sludge, and on August the 2nd, we have 3 inches of sludge.
My question wasn't intended to offend you.
No, we
and I
didn't at all.
apologize if it did.
No, not at all.
What I was asking is, the product that you have, who puts that product into the lagoon? And, would it be yourself or an employee, or would it be a city employee that would be given the product with direction on how to implement it?
That's the standard practice right now, yes. The foreman, they buy the product and they apply it themselves. For example,
that was my question. Yeah.
the city of Yellowknife, they've been with us for over 20 years. They had a problem with the lift stations, fat building up. They did their own independent assessment and found that by greatly increasing the dose rates, they could remove all the fat and sludge that was building up in the lift stations. Foremen invariably, with most of our towns, they adjust the dose rates to suit their own requirements. But yes, we do offer a guide.
Thank you.
So once the plan is implemented, who assumes the liabilities should something go wrong? Does the city assume the liability, or does your company?
We have insurance. There has never been a liability. Liability in what context?
Let's say overdosing, underdosing, that there could be many issues that could occur with any product like this.
Overdosing doesn't cause a pollen. If there's no food source, it dies out. Underdosing, you're left with sludge, or you're left with sewage. It's in exporting to overseas countries, we're often asked, how dangerous is it? What will it do? Where will it go? Will it take over the land? Will it compete with it's very specific to sewage. It is basically the components are natural. It's 100% organic. And once it has no food source, it dies out. But I thank Council for giving me the opportunity to present, because I feel we have a wonderful opportunity.
Do you have a website that we can refer to?
Yes, I'll give you a business card.
Okay.
I also have correspondence here between myself and Mr. Peter Bugliardi, and listing the towns that I offered to him to speak with if he wanted to. And maybe some of councillors may want to speak with some of these towns that we've had for many years, to get independent communication with them away from what I've said. So I have this here if you want.
No, I just want to thank you for coming out and presenting to us, and hopefully we can look into this further.
Thank you very much. I apologize about this morning. I was waiting for it to come up in the meeting, so my humblest apologies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your presentation.
Thank you.
We now have services. The item is approval to proceed with applying grant funding, am I correct?
Yes, Your Worship, thank you. Good evening, Council. I just wanted to clarify that the project that Mr. Powell is talking about is not one of these as part of this RFP. The sewage effluent disposal and treatment is actually the UV disinfection before it goes out into the river. So it's a whole separate project. That project we don't have as part of an application for grant funding because it doesn't quite fit into the criteria. So we didn't list that as a priority project. So I just wanted to clarify that. We have two grant funds that are available. We have the Small Communities Fund, which is 2/3 funding. So a third from the federal, a third from the provincial, and a third would need to be municipally funded. The deadline for that application is February 18th, and that's why we're bringing this forward to council, is if council wants to support staff putting an application in, then we need to get moving on that. The other fund is the gas tax strategic priorities fund, and it's 100% funded by the province. And that deadline is April 15th. So through the asset management plan, we basically looked at some of the priority essential projects that we've had either on the books or have recently come up because of regulatory requirements. And the one project that we were looking at putting an application in for the Small Communities Fund is the sewage effluent disposal and treatment, which again is the UV disinfection. The other project was the roof replacement on the East Side Reservoir, which would go to the Strategic Priorities Fund. We have the availability to apply for 2 capital projects and 1 capacity building project as part of that fund. So we thought that the East Side Reservoir roof replacement would be one of the capital projects. The 5th Street water main replacement would be another priority capital project. And then we could also apply for capacity building, which would be for the long-term financial plan and policy. So all we're looking for from council right now is just support for applying for the funding. Doesn't mean that you're approving the projects or anything like that. Obviously, if we don't get the funding, we're not going to proceed with the project.
So could you elaborate a little bit on the 5th Street water main? Like what area of 5th needs to be?
Okay, we previously had 2 water mains that ran across the river. In 2009 or 10, during freshet, we lost one. And that main was specifically feeding Interfor. So we've reconnected them in Ruckles, but we did some testing on the other main and the wall thicknesses have diminished quite a bit.
So it's that you want to replace?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's about half exposed. Whereas and that's what happened with the other one. The other one was completely exposed, and that's what happened. It wore out from all the sand and trees and.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I was not totally clear on. I thought that might be what you were talking about, but I wasn't 100% clear. So thanks.
I can make a motion. Be it resolved that council supports staff proceeding with preparing applications for the Small Communities Fund and Strategic Priorities Fund grants.
All in favor? Item for development and engineering event for the City Hall rebuild approval.
Yeah, so we're requesting that council approve the use of $15,000 from the contingency fund that was approved by the previous council. We, as part of the project, put some upgrades to the 2nd floor lighting. We did budget $30,000 for it in the 2014 financial plan. When the tenders came in, they came in at $43,160, so we're $13,160 short. So Insurance has since said that they will not cover those costs.
Again, just, pardon me, Sasha, I just need some clarification again. The $30,000 that's in the financial plan, was that to do all of the lighting?
No, that was just to do a portion of the lighting.
Is that the downstairs portion?
No, the main floor portion of the lighting is covered.
Is covered.
Yes, it's the second floor that insurance won't cover.
So the total to the second floor is at 43,160.
Yes.
We've already got 30,000 approved
Yes.
in, okay, that's where I needed my, okay. Thank you.
Councillor Rowe.
I'm just curious, these lighting upgrades, are they to bring the lighting up to what was damaged, or are we getting fancier lighting and that's why insurance isn't covering it? I'm just thinking.
None of the lighting upstairs was damaged, and that's why they won't cover the cost to replace it. And it's not that we're getting fancier lighting, it's just we're upgrading because it's like 20-some, if not more years old,
30.
30 plus. It's, what we've done is gone more efficient than what we had.
So have these upgrades already been done?
They're in the process of being completed, yeah.
Well, I would make the resolution, put forward the resolution that we approve the use of $15,000 as the contingency amount for the City Hall rebuild, which is included in the 2014 financial plan amendment and is to be funded from surplus at the regular meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? We have the ATDLG, Eileen Parkinson, Secretary Treasurer, for notice of annual meeting, resolutions and date.
Your worship, what this is at the AKBLG that happens, I believe, in April 23rd. They do resolutions on behalf of our Kootenai boundary area. And so as a council, if there is some resolutions that they would like to put forward to the AKBLG, council can get together and decide on some resolutions that they would like to present at that level of government. This is just the first call. And so the deadline is the 23rd of February, just that it's giving council a heads up, and they're going to put in a second call and they're going to do a third call. So it gives council some time to think about what type of resolutions they would like to put forward. And then once those resolutions, if they're passed by the AKBLG, then gets forward to the UBCM in the fall.
Any questions?
Do you want to, I'd make a motion to receive this information?
Councillor Thompson, second. Councillor Rose, all in favor? So carried. Another information item is the Boundary Museum. Under Christine Boundary Museum Service Agreement. Council is to receive discussion documentation for finance for decision of budget discussions.
So your worship, this is a yearly thing that the Boundary Museum puts forward to council, and it's going to be part of the budget discussions. This is just their intention to show that they are going to be looking for funding again this year, and this is their letter in that's going to advise. So what the chief financial officer will do is take this information and form that into part of the budget presentation that will be on next year for council to consider.
I'll make a motion that we receive this information.
Do I have a second? All in favor? So carried. The BC Transit Annual, okay, now President and CEO.
Yeah, basically they're asking us if we'd be interested in receiving a presentation. So I definitely would. I'm not sure how the rest of council feels, but I would like to look at transit.
I'm just curious if there's any cost to the city for this, for bringing them in to do the presentation?
It doesn't say.
Your worship, generally when they are inviting themselves, they will come in on the day for a delegation and they'll come to present to council. So we've never paid for those before. So they just come in and do their presentations. So.
I'll make a motion that we accept their offer to come for a presentation.
Do I have a second? Councilor Crowell. All in favor? Okay. Our next item is Senior Sergeant Jim Harrison, Citizen Patrol. Request for donation of an older Mac laptop to Citizens on Patrol. Councilor Crowell.
A question through you to staff. Do we even have that old Mac or any old Macs kicking around?
Your worship, but I'm not familiar with this Mac laptop. I'm thinking that it's quite an ancient one. It's something that we would have to check with our IT fellow and just see if it's still functioning. I would imagine it's almost decommissioned, so if it is still functioning, it might be something that council might be considered in donating to them. Again, I don't know how well it is in working condition, but
I would put forward a resolution that if the city has an old working Mac computer that is not necessary for the operations of the city, and feel free to put the words in my mouth, that we donate that laptop to the Citizens on Patrol.
Just putting that as a motion.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilor
And further discussion. It says an old working Mac. Well, it's a Mac, so obviously it's working, as opposed to a new PC, which probably doesn't work. So the fact that it's old, it served Councilor Wires well, it served us well when we had those in the past. And as long as it functions, I think it would be a benefit to them, because they're a benefit to us.
Absolutely.
So, all in favor? It's okay.
As long as it don't take long.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Okay, we have information. Paul George London, coordinator for community Christmas dinner and the donation to the community Christmas.
I move that we receive that for information.
I'll second that.
Councilor Butler, all in favor?
Your worship, just a note on this is that this is basically they're asking for a food donation of money. Traditionally, we have donated $500 each year to this, and so this is their ask for that donation.
Just a question. I thought that is that a line item in the budget? Let me put it that way.
Your worship, no, it was something that council offered by resolution, basically the same time, this time every year. We do have funds, what we call, it used to be a grant and aid, and now it is a community services policy where we have a bit of funding that is allowing council to offer some community support throughout the year. And so if council so wishes, they could continue that tradition if they would like to do that.
My motion hasn't been voted on yet.
I can offer a friendly amendment.
Thank you.
So what did you say for you? What was your original?
Receive for information and contribute
Yeah,
$500 to that.
okay. I would propose a friendly amendment to that motion that we contribute $500 out of the, what do you call it?
It's a community services.
Out of the community services fund towards the Christmas dinner. Would you accept?
I
it?
certainly
You have a
do
second on
accept
the
that.
motion? Councilor Thompson, all in favor? So
Point of
carried.
order, did we get a second on that?
Yeah.
And you second? Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Robert Arell, legal counsel to District of Hudson Hope. It's in regards to District of Hudson Hope letter regarding proposed Site C dam project to BC Utilities Commission. We're receiving for discussion and decision.
After reading the report from the community, Mr. Mayor, I would definitely be in support of them. It's something that does seem to put a huge tax burden on the residents of BC, to $8 billion, I think they suggested, and they're just asking for a moratorium on this for a year so that the Utilities Commission can review the project and see if there's more cost-effective ways to generate this power. So I think it would be in the best interest of British Columbia to support the District of Hudson Hope in their endeavor.
That's your,
I'm not making a motion, I'm just
Oh,
discussing.
So do I have a motion? Or any further discussion?
You say it was a financial burden on the community?
Mr. Mayor, yes, they've stated that it would be about $8 billion of, I think they would go into debt by doing this project. I think that's what it said in the.
Try to see where it says, how would the community?
So to BC, not to the community.
Yeah.
but
Oh,
to-
yeah.
To the residents of
Yeah.
BC, yeah. And I believe they were also stating that they needed to have more transparency in the discussions, that not enough information had been released to the public in order for them to make an informed decision on this. And I just know if this was happening in our little town that we probably want them to support us. So when they put out a call to other municipalities, I mean, that must be such a hard decision for a mayor and council to have to make when that's happening.
Can I put a motion forward to receive it for discussion, or do we want to put a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion that we write a letter of support to the mayor and the District of Hudson's Hope in their request for a one-year moratorium on the Site C dam project.
Do I have a second?
I'll second
Councilor Ross. All in favor?
No discussion.
All right, Councilor
Yeah, when people have issues, other communities, and we do the same. If we have an issue, we ask for support. So it is not a hard thing for councils to do. This is information from the city and then an article from a Vancouver Sun columnist, but I don't have any other information from the other side, which is the province. So I would hesitate to do that without information from both sides to balance it. So I can't support it.
Councilor Thompson.
I hear what you're saying, Councillor Krog. However, they're asking for a one-year moratorium to allow the BCUC an opportunity to look into this and address it. And I would certainly be able to support that. I don't think that the provinces or the government side, we all know, is that they're very for the Site C dam. I mean, they've not made any, they haven't hidden their being in favor of this. I know that First Nations, I think, are also concerned with the impact that it's going to have on their territorial lands and the like. And I think that it should go before the BCUC, and people that have standing be able to go before them and put their arguments.
Councilor Crowe.
Yeah, but it's not the BCUC that's asking for the moratorium.
No, I would
These guys
support
are
Timberland
saying-
Ridge's application to have the moratorium placed.
Yeah, they're
It's good
asking for a
support.
moratorium
Yep.
on it. And you stated that so that the Utilities Commission can have a
Well,
look
if-
at
if-
it, but
yes.
it's not the Utilities Commission that's asking for the
No, I
moratorium.
know.
Yeah.
I understand
Yeah,
that. I do understand that.
Yeah.
But I would support Timberland Ridge's ask to have BCUC, which is what they're doing in their letter. They're asking us to support that.
They're asking us.
For a one-year moratorium in the BCUC consideration of a less expensive alternative is what they're asking.
How long has this been up for discussion and debate now?
Several years.
Yeah.
It's been on for a long time.
So another year and then what, another year and like,
I don't know that the BCUC has ever considered this.
Councillor Carl.
Yeah, just the British Columbia Utilities Commission. I would have thought they would have been involved in it from the get-go. And I guess it's the way it's worded. They're saying to support our request for a one-year moratorium and BCUC consideration of less expenses. So they're asking us to support the moratorium and BCUC consider, like
Yeah.
it says, but it doesn't mention what BCUC is doing or has done. Is my concern.
Any other questions? Councillor.
Yeah, I have concerns about these, Mr. Mayor, these mega projects that they are flooding. It has been a controversial issue for many years, like dams right across Canada. They have had, this is a pristine Peace River Valley area. It's on not only agricultural land, but it's unique habitat for wildlife and birds, breeding habitat, species at risk. And regardless of, I think, the premise for what they're asking us to do for economic reasons, I think there are other reasons beyond economic reasons for us to slow down before we go ahead with these mega projects. I think it's progressive of us as a city who may be facing similar issues in the near future, things that may be imposed upon us in this valley, that we support the concerns of this community. This is a mega project, and the impacts of these mega projects are considerable. This goes far beyond economic impact. So I would support a letter that supports a moratorium at this time.
Councillor Thompson.
And I think the other thing is that Minister Bennett's been quoted as saying that this is the last of its kind. So if it's the last of its kind, what are they going to do in the future? And they should have some other alternatives. So, I have to speak in favor of this resolution.
So we have a motion on the table. Is there any other discussions? All in favor?
Opposed? Do we want our opposed?
Councillor Crowds.
I don't have enough information.
Yeah. So where it defines it. And our last item of information is Chris Moslin, President of Grand Forks Trail Society, has issued a letter of congratulations. And he's asking us to receive the information.
Make a motion that we receive for information, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Butler, do I have a second? Or do we have a discussion? Councillor Thompson. All in favor of receiving? So carried. Now we're going to the next item, which are the bylaws. Manager of Development and Engineering Services. In regards to the road closure bylaw, number 2003, being the Riverside Drive Road Closure bylaw. We're asking council to give a final reading to the bylaw. 2003, being the Riverside Drive Road closure bylaw. Councillor.
I would move that, that the bylaw number 2003 be given final reading.
Second. Councillor Crog. All in favor? So carried. Our next is Manager of Operations. In regards, the item is the Electric Utility Repeal Bylaw, number 1543R, 2014. The council approves the Electrical Utility Repeal Bylaw, 1543R, 2014. Give the bylaw third reading.
Your worship,
Councillor Thompson.
there, the bylaw, the amending bylaw is coming forward tonight as well. And through you to our CAO, acting CAO, can we defer or table this until after we've had an opportunity to discuss some concerns that have been raised with the amending bylaw?
Your worship, we have Mr. Alex Love here tonight as the electrical consultant, and if council would like to have him present and have some questions answered, perhaps we can shed some light on some of those concerns.
That would be.
Good evening. I thought maybe I could just give council a reminder on what the changes are in the bylaw, and then if there were any questions, I could hopefully address them. And the amended bylaw has really two main areas of change. One is in defining the rates for common service connections. That's for new houses being connected. And the intention of all that was to provide greater certainty to customers who are getting connected as to what the cost was and what they would need to do to get their connections made. And the second major change was implementing a solar residential PV program to buy back some energy from residential solar PV installations. And we haven't had such a provision ever, to my knowledge, so this would be the first time. And in fact, in Grand Forks, there is now a residential PV installation, which at this point can't sell back to the utility, but after this bylaw could. Two key points on that, though, are that there would be a limit on the amount of power that would be sold back to the utility, 4,000 kilowatt hours per year, which would be about $400 and some worth. And limiting installations up to 10 kVA or less, because at 10 kVA, that's a level that we don't have to do any system impact studies for sure. So it's sort of an easy one to accommodate. As also 10 kVA is quite a large residential installation. It's bigger than any residential installation I know of. So if there were any questions, I could try and address those.
I'm just wondering why at this time we weren't able to amend the bylaw to allow commercial customers to hook up as well, because I believe that is done in other cities.
So what we did is we did provide an amendment so that if other non-residential IPPs, independent power producers, so it could be wind, for example, maybe it's not solar, the utility could look at those provided and approve them, provided there would be no negative operational or financial impact to the utility. But commercial tends to be a bit different, so they're all one-offs kind of thing.
Yeah, I would like, if, with your indulgence, we received an email today from Roxana Bolton, and she has expressed some concerns. So may I just read her email into the record?
Please.
Dear Mayor and Councillors, the third reading of our new electricity bylaw 1975 will take place at tonight's council meeting. Unfortunately, minimal changes have been made to this bylaw with respect to solar photovoltaics, despite public input requested and received by the city. Many specific changes were repeatedly suggested. Some of the important suggested changes were that the title of the section be changed from residential photovoltaic services to solar photovoltaic services, to allow commercial customers to participate and to increase capacity limits. As it is now written, the entire section applies to residential only, although 11.3 was intended to allow for commercial facilities and facilities larger than 10 kVA. Also, it was asked that the kVA term be clarified, that solar photovoltaic facilities be considered to be at a power factor of 100% and thus equal kWAC. Essentially, no improvements have been made after extensive public input. As this bylaw introduces solar photovoltaics, interconnection, and net metering, it is critical that it be thorough, accurate, clear, and consider of future possibilities to promote solar energy in our community without continuously having to revisit this bylaw. As a minimum, it is recommended that the title of this section be amended from residential photovoltaic services to solar photovoltaic services. This will then clarify the intent of 11.3 to allow for interconnection applications for commercial solar PV facilities, as well as larger facilities, or as well as facilities larger than 10 kVA. And sincerely, Roxana Bolton. So can you comment on any of her concerns, please?
First of all, there were, in the public input, there were two comments received, one from Ms. Bolton and one from another customer. The other customer said I think they used the word, basically you're on the right track, but we would like to see a provision for commercial as well, which I think is similar to what Ms. Bolton is saying in part in her letter. So 11.3 does cover that for commercial, and that's what it's intended for the non-residential applications. And we did put in a note to clarify how to convert from kVA to kilowatts AC.
Yeah.
Which I think is in 11.1, I think is where it is.
What about the changing of the residential photovoltaic services to solar?
Well, then that's wide open, right? So that's why we say no, the non-residential is covered under 11.3. So a commercial customer could say, well, I want to do this kind of installation, and we would look at under the terms of 11.3.
So they're not precluded from?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and not only is solar not excluded, but other forms of independent power. So wind example.
Yeah.
That's all covered under 11.3.
That's right.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's also been concerns in the public regarding radiation being emitted from our meters. Although they're not full-fledged smart meters, they are continually emitting RF radiation. And Nelson, in their bylaw, and I believe Fortis as well, has an opt-out program. So included in their bylaw, it states that anybody who chooses to opt out of having the radiation-emitting meters can, well, I would propose have an analog meter. And with our equal payments plan, I was just wondering if it's possible that should these people opt out, if they qualified, they put on the equal payments plan and then not have to pay a meter reading every 2 months.
So if council desired, we could introduce a radio read meter opt-out program similar to Nelson, or maybe a bit different depending on what the wishes are. That would be practical. People opting out would not be able to get an analog meter. It would be a digital meter without the radio transmitter. So physically it would look the same, except it has no transmitter.
I'm just concerned about this, as other people are, because those meters do have the possibility to be upgraded to smart meters at some point. That's why
They would be replaced with smart meters.
there's not the opportunity to put a personality module into those
We would
meters.
have to send the thing back to the factory, so no, we would just order new meters.
Councilor Coyle.
Yeah, the opt-out system in Nelson, I believe you pay a one-time fee of for probably the meter switch out of $145 and then $21.19 per reading. And I guess my fear of a overall payment plan is at the end of it, if they use more power, then the payment plan is there. And if we're saying that they can't afford it and then they get hit with a huge bill at the end, or a rebate, they could get a rebate, but they could get, so how are they gonna afford that?
This option already is included in our bylaws that people with the radio transmitting meters do have that option. So I imagine that everybody would have that same option, whether they chose a radio meter or a non-radio meter, as long as they qualified under the terms of the bylaw. They should be allowed to have that. Now, it'd be the same with someone with a radio read meter. I mean, they could have the possibility of having a large bill at the end of the year as well.
Through you to Alex, are there a substantial number of people in Nelson that have opted out?
I think there's 6.
6? And so they pay the 21, whatever,
That's right.
however often you do your bill?
Bi-monthly.
Bi-monthly?
Yeah. So I think, meter opt-out programs are not for the masses. There are, statistically a very small percentage of customers who will actually take advantage of it. But what they are for is for those small customers, and that's why they have the charges like the setup charge and so on, so that it doesn't come at a cost to the remaining ratepayers. It's a service they want, and they pay their full way. So just because there's perhaps a small number of customers who would use it doesn't mean that it's not necessarily worthwhile.
No, yes, I just wondered if there were, a large number of people that took advantage of that.
No, but it is fairly small numbers, yeah.
Getting back on the solar issue, has the research and resource study been done solely on the one installation in Grand Forks, or are there others anywhere else?
Well, we haven't done any specific studies for Grand Forks, aside from the one customer who's connected, and we determined, they could interconnect, which we'd expect to be more or less the same case for virtually any residential customer, especially with the way we've structured it with the limit of 10 kVA. Anything sort of commercial scale where we're talking bigger installations would definitely need some study to determine what impacts, and if there are impacts, what would need to be done to mitigate it.
Are there any other models similar to this in other communities?
Well, Nelson has a net metering bylaw that allows solar installations, and most utilities, probably not all, but most utilities have some flavor of it, yes.
Is 10,000 the standard ceiling?
No, the ceiling is all over the map from 10 to as high as 50. But they come with varying provisos. The utilities that have 50 have contingencies in there that they may have to have system upgrades and studies done to permit a connection.
So through you to our acting CAO, if it were the wish of council to include an opt-out provision in the electrical utility bylaw, how could we, would it be advisable to adopt this bylaw and then bring forward another amendment? What would?
Your worship, because we're only at second reading, council could afford to be able to put in an amendment to the bylaw as a suggestion, and we wouldn't have to bring it back to first reading if you wanted to continue through we could make the amendments and have council consider and then proceed to third reading at that time.
Could we put the deferral in place with more time to study? Then you wouldn't have to bring it back and
Table.
table the deferral. Councilor Crowe.
Yeah, I'm not against the opt-out program. I was just pointing out that there's a cost associated with it. And if we made an amendment now to say that there would be an opt-out, we just have to figure out the cost of it, because the city of Nelson's cost for their electrical as opposed to the cost for our people to read meters. So, rather than table it, I would be more comfortable just adding that there could be an opt-out.
Can I make a suggestion? If you want to include an opt-out program, but the electric rate bylaw has to come forward in short order here for 2015 rates. And an opt-out program effectively would be a new rate for a manual meter read rate. You could just include it in that rate bylaw.
I'm just curious, Mr. Mayor, a lot of our meters are being switched out right now because they've reached their life expectancy. If someone's house were to come up for a new meter to be installed, would they still then have to pay for their new meter if they chose to have this opt-out at that time?
Yes, because the meter population is fairly homogeneous across all our customers, and we use the same type of meters. The manual read meter is a different type, so it actually should be a lower cost meter because it doesn't have a transmitter, which is true. It has less features, but they're oddballs in the system, so we'd be ordering like 10 of them instead of 1,000, so the pricing is higher. And they will also have to be re-verified as individuals because there isn't a big enough batch to do sample batching, which is how we do the other meter re-verifications.
So if I understand you correctly, meters, the old ones have reached their lifespan. So if we're replacing them with not the meter that's conforming to a smart meter, for example, the client has to pay for it. Yet even though they can't keep the old one in place.
So we don't have any of the old electromechanical meters at all. We started changing those out in 2004. They're long gone. So any time we wanted to, and all of our meters are radio read meters, so any of those that we wanted to change would be, a current manufactured this year meter, which would be a digital meter, but without the radio transmitter options.
So what time frame assessment do you put on these when you consider them as obsolete or aged?
So each meter comes with a seal life, which in our case was 10 years. So when the meter is at or approaches its 10-year life, it needs to be re-verified. And with large batches of meters, say you have 1,000 that are the same, you have to do a compliance sample of, say, a couple hundred meters. They get pulled, sent to a testing facility. In our case, we're using a place in Penticton. And if all of those pass the accuracy test, then the whole batch is re-verified for either 6, 8, or 10 years, depending on the sample size and so on. So we more or less just keep doing that until we start having meter failure rates. If the sample has more than a certain number of failures, then the whole batch is rejected and they all have to be replaced. We would expect to get 20 plus years of service life out of a meter in general.
I have just two questions, Mr. Mayor. Just going through these documents, I can't see where the amendment for the opt-out, opting out, or the alternative meter, where we would put that. So if you could just give direction perhaps as to where that amendment would go. Secondly is, so once we have an amended document, do we go back to second reading? Or is it still the third reading as an amended bylaw?
Your worship, it would go as a third meeting because you can do up a second and then you can amend the bylaw to reflect the changes. And then council will consider the third reading.
Okay. And what would the ramifications be if we just decided to table it until January? What would the ramifications be for that?
I think, your worship, we need to ask Mr. Love what the ramifications would be if it was tabled.
So you, in other words, you want to defer.
Well, if it came to that, so where would we put the amendment? And then Diane has asked, our CAO has answered my second question. And so we could go ahead based on that, or if we decided to table it, what would the ramifications be?
So I think answering the last part there, what would be the ramifications of tabling it and adopting the bylaw at a later date? I think I can only think of two. One is on the customer service connections. Anybody looking for a new connection between now and then will of course fall under the old bylaw, which has more uncertainty because they need to get a contractor to give them a quote, but there is no contractor in town, so they have to get somebody from out of town. So it would be a cleaner process for them if they have the new bylaw adopted, but there isn't a tremendously high frequency of that occurring, especially in the winter. So it might not even happen if it was a month or so. The other thing is for the residential solar PV, the one customer who's in town now, of course, can't sell energy back to the utility. That would just start whenever the bylaw is adopted. But it's a very low solar generation period of time, so that may be a non-issue.
With respect to what Councillor Ross was asking, where in the bylaw you would put that opt-out provision. From what I understood Mr. Love to tell us is that it would be in the rates bylaw as part of the rates. When the rates come forward, it wouldn't necessarily have to be in this.
Correct.
In this bylaw, so there would be no amendment in that respect.
Oh, okay.
And also in the Nelson bylaw, it was included as appendix at the end.
Thank you. Yeah. That's easy.
So Councilor Thompson, you don't want to proceed with tabling it?
No, I'd like to proceed with giving it third reading. And that would be would put that motion forward.
Because we don't have the rate bylaw in front of us right now.
Well, it's a separate bylaw.
Separate bylaw, so. those
Council
issues-
not consider tabling it, so we have more time to study it, because we have only been in office 2 weeks. Previous councils had much more time.
I'll put a motion forward to table this to our meeting in January.
And your worship, just a point, tabling is where it doesn't go anywhere, so you want to refer it to another meeting date, and so it actually staples down the date.
Defer? Refer, is it refer or defer?
It's refer.
I'll remove that motion if that's proper procedure.
So do we have a motion to refer?
Okay, I'll make a motion to refer this to a later meeting then, if that's the appropriate.
To the January 12th meeting?
Sure.
And put a date on it?
All right, till January 12th.
I just have one question prior to that. You said that it would affect the rates for the electrical are being determined in February or January?
Well, I think that's for your administration to decide on what day they want to bring it forward, but it needs to be fairly soon. Yeah.
January 12th is for the rates, so if we haven't got a bylaw in place by then. Will it affect?
No, you have an existing bylaw in place. So.
Is there any flexibility on that factor?
Your worship, I believe it's to do with the billing and
For the rates bylaw, we have a policy that says that we'll stay at 98% of Fortis's rates. And Fortis will be having a rate change in January, so to keep with our policy, we would want to bring back up the rates in January.
We have a motion on the floor.
Is it
We have a
second?
second.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
I just want to make sure that we all understand, at least, and make sure that I am understanding that we are talking about the regulatory bylaw, which we've now referred to January 12th. And there will be a second bylaw coming forward, which will increase the rates if Port is passing on the rate increase. So there's two bylaws that we will be looking at our next meeting with respect to the electrical utility. Am I right there?
I just wanted to clarify that the referral to the January 12th is the bylaw as it stands right now, and just council that wants to have the additional time before considering third reading.
Which would automatically impact the second one also, would it not?
Yeah, because it's only a third. It's only a third.
So, motion's on the table, all in favor?
Opposed.
Opposed, Councilor Clark. Councilor Hammond?
I just wanted some more discussion. How will it impact the bylaw for the rates?
Tabling this?
Yeah, by referring this.
I think I could say that you could treat them as fairly independent. You know, one sets the rates for the services, and the one that you've got in front of you right now sets the conditions of the services. So you can treat them as separate.
Okay.
So, we have all the motions carried.
Who's gonna talk to Roxana? Me.
We'll be looking at the electrical utility regulatory bylaw number 1975, 2014. The council approved the electrical utility regulatory bylaw number 1975, 2014, and give the bylaw its third reading.
I would put forward a motion that we refer this bylaw to the January 12th, 2015 regular meeting of council.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Councilor Butler, discussion.
Are we actually, I know with the tabling motion, there's no discussion, but with a referral motion, is there discussion?
Your worship, I believe that there could be discussion on a referral.
Yeah, just,
Councilor Crowe.
I don't want us to be seen as putting up roadblocks to people that are trying to get it this far so that they can then proceed with their projects. And even though it's winter construction, that type of thing, right? So that would be my concern.
Councilor Butler.
Well, I know I spoke with Ms. Bolton tonight, and I think she would definitely be in favor of us having more discussion on this before proceeding with it, so.
Councilor Thompson.
Well, I think that the newer members of council need some time to be comfortable with, I mean, this is the first really big meeting that we've had, and although things have been discussed and perhaps observed in the gallery or in on the jftv.ca site, I don't think it's going to have that big of a negative impact on anybody if we're bringing it forward to our next regular meeting. And then if we all agree on everything that is and give it third reading, there would be nothing to preclude us from having a special meeting to give it final adoption if it was agreed, or if we didn't want to wait until the next meeting in January.
Yeah.
So, and it's my understanding that this isn't going to have that, because of the time of year, it's not going to have that big of an impact on the construction. I think was your concern.
If I may, I definitely concur with Councilor Thompson's opinion because of the newness of council and should have more time to consider. So all in favor?
Opposed, yeah.
It is carried. Manager of Development and Engineering, presenting subdivision and development repeal bylaw number 1424R, 2014. Council receives the subdivision and development repeal bylaw number 1424 and give it bylaw third reading. Councilor Wong.
Again, Mr. Mayor, this bylaw is quite huge. I mean, you can see how many pages it is here. And again, with just having this bylaw before me for the first time, I actually didn't have access to it until today. I wasn't able to find it in our notes. It listed that we were supposed to go on the Grand Forks website to look at this bylaw, and it wasn't in the bylaw library as far as I could see. So I just got a physical copy of this in my hands today, so I haven't had a chance to review it.
Can I have a comment from our acting CEO on that?
Your worship, through our manager of development and engineering, perhaps you can provide some information on the subdivision bylaw.
It's actually a whole brand new bylaw. Our existing bylaw is 20 years old and it's not to industry standard any longer. Construction methods and practices have changed over the years. So we basically took a bylaw and specialized it for the city of Grand Forks. It is along with the master municipal construction document that most municipalities are using these days. It's in and along those lines. It utilizes best management practices. It's got more detailed requirements than what we had before.
Are you referring to bylaw number 1970?
The actual bylaw, not the repeal bylaw. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. So you have a second on that motion to refer it?
What impact would it have if this were to be referred to January 12th? Is that going to hold up applications that are currently?
If we have any development that applies during that time, it has to fall under the old bylaw.
under the old plan?
But will a month have that much of an impact? Considering the time of year?
Probably not. It's just this, I know we do have some developments that are on the books out there, and it'd be nice to have the new bylaw in place for when they actually came and applied for their development permits.
Would the referral be not more advisory than having to make amendments, say later to the other, which is the worst of both evils?
Well, I mean, this is a pretty comprehensive bylaw, and we took the time to go through it. So, I mean, I can't see there being any amendments to it unless council was looking to get something a little bit more detailed than what's there. We tried to slightly pare it down in a few spots because there was like way too much detail.
But it's only based on the concerns because we have had not enough time to look at it.
Yeah.
And that's the main issue.
And we did advertise it to the public. They had their opportunity to provide comments, and we didn't get any.
So again, we have a motion.
I would just like to, Mr. Mayor, just say, I don't feel comfortable as a council member voting for something I haven't read, and whether it was out there or not, maybe it was my mistake for not being able to find it, but nonetheless, I can't vote for something that I haven't read, so.
Based on that, we'll have a second.
I'm just wondering if the rest of council has actually had the opportunity to read through it.
I'm not sure that I'd be able to understand it anyway. Mr. Mayor? I'm not comfortable with seconding it, but I didn't read the bylaw. I couldn't find it either. Having said that, at some time, we have to trust the expertise of the staff that we have that are putting this together. And if I can read the bylaw, that's great, but how many pages is that?
161. It's 233
don't
pages
know.
on the
Three
bylaws.
quarters of an inch thick.
Yeah, so,
233 pages.
in my experience and knowing several mayors and council people, there's some of those bylaws are so thick and they have literally hundreds of them. And they've gone out to the public, and I assume people who are interested in the public might have read it and had no issue with it. I agree with Julia, but,
It's either than how many.
yeah,
I know.
and how many bylaws are there that are that weighty? Yeah, it's, right,
It might be obviously that thick for a reason.
of course they are, because they're building codes, right? That's huge. I'm not a builder, I'm not an electrician, and I'm not a plumber. I've never claimed to be.
Electrical would be there.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm not, this
You
is,
don't have the expertise.
I don't have the expertise to read that, and then I'm not going to make recommendations, as if I've suddenly, got a Google red seal on building codes.
Councilor Crowe.
Yeah, I concur with Councilor Ross's comments. There are certain things that our staff does and they're good at their job. And if we're going to look at every bylaw that comes out until we've all read it, reread it, and then comprehend it, and then make changes to it, when our job is to set the policy and the direction for the city, not micromanage bylaws. So again, like the last one, I won't support the incentive referral or anything.
So Councilor Thompson.
Yeah, I have to concur with both Councilor Krog and Councilor Ross on that. The document has been prepared in accordance with regulations and legislation that's there. And I'm certainly no expert or know what I claim to be on that, to be approving subdivisions and the like. So I personally wouldn't have a problem supporting the third reading on this.
So the only issue that remains then, we still have till final reading, should you elect to dive into it or anybody else. And have that time frame for final reading, so there's no real reason not to for the third reading. It just makes it more complicated if we do anything before final reading, right? Because then that's a little bit back. Councilor Butler.
I totally agree with what all you guys are saying, and I'm sure that you'll pass this, but my conscience still won't allow me to vote for it, and I'll be quite happy to support you if you do.
So
I would like a copy of that bylaw though.
Do we not have a motion on the table that was first and second for referral?
We had a motion.
Oh, I thought you were.
No, we
I
had.
don't know if I actually put it forward as a motion.
I don't have it as a motion.
Okay.
Okay. So do we have a motion then to give this bylaw third reading? Councilor Crowe, do I have a second? Councilor Thompson. All in favor?
I'll be opposed.
That was the repeal bylaw.
Yes.
Then I would put forward a motion that we give third reading to the,
Bylaw 1970.
yes, bylaw 1970, the subdivision development and service.
Service law. Do I have a second? All, Councilor
Yeah.
Crowe. All in favor? So
And
carried.
opposed.
Did you want that first?
Yeah, you can record it.
late ballots. Now we will have questions from the public. The meeting.
Just say congratulations, you have up to 8 viewers at this point. So even when he was talking about waste, he still didn't go down below 5, so
Is that a good
congratulations.
That's ex-council. They're in their underwear watching this.
Do I have any more drinking beer?
I just want to ask, Councilor Ross, how did you vote on the road closure of Riverside?
Oh, gosh. I think I voted in favor.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. That's all.
Just question how she voted on.
I voted in favor.
Okay, thanks.
One more question. Aren't you going to give the mayor a computer?
Yeah.
I have one.
Okay. So you're reading from papers.
Your worship, also just to clarify, you don't show the individual votes of council and that you don't have your opposition, so we would never know.
Right.
Or you just said everything. Any other questions on the public?
Could I make a request? Would you be willing to speak up a little more so that we can hear you back here?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
I have to apologize for the mayor tonight. He's suffering with a bit of a cold.
Oh, that's good
No
information.
excuses, though. Any other questions?
I did have a quick question. It's almost 2 hours you guys have been at it, and I know you must feel this is more than a little overwhelming for you for the first time around.
Have you identify yourself, please?
Pardon?
Can I have your name, please?
Gene Cook.
It's, this meeting has gone over 2 hours.
So my question is, does the new facility have provision for hearing impaired so it is easy to hear you folks?
Are they gonna do microphone?
I believe, your worship, I think the microphone system will be back in at City Hall. I'm not sure what capacity, but I'm pretty sure that there is provisions for some speaker system.
And are there
But for the hearing impaired was the question, is there any?
Well, with the microphone, that would
Should cover
amplify.
Councilor Crowe?
Yeah, at the regional district office, they retrofitted the one at the RD and they're working on, or in Trail, and they're working on the one in Grand Forks. They have a microphone system. The system that we have or had, if it's the same system coming back,
It'll be similar.
okay, that thing is a piece of whatever.
I think it'll be a new one, so.
Yeah, but the microphone system they have can be controlled by the chair, and it's cued so that if Councillor Hammett is talking and Councillor Ross is next, hers would be a solid color, hers will blink, and as soon as she shuts hers off, the sound quality is incredible. And it's a smart system. So if you could, maybe through you to staff, have a look at what the RV did. Because I've seen lots of microphones on lots of tables and I was impressed with these.
But then for your worship, the mayor would have the control?
No,
Oh,
no, he could.
Through the mayor,
Yeah.
Councilor Carrera. Insurance, of course, only covers like make and model of our previous system.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're exactly the same, only
So,
completely different.
Any kind of operating in the city would be responsible for the cost difference, but the insurance would cover up to similar make and model.
And it may be similar. It may be matched back.
Sorry, just we deviated a bit off.
Yeah.
Question, but yeah, you have any other questions?
See, it's odd because for people that are hearing impaired, I heard probably 20% of what Mr. Crowe said and probably 5% of what you said. So that's why it's a concern of mine that for the public at large that we be allowed to participate, because throughout this meeting, I've probably heard less than 15% of all that was said by any particular person. You're the only one, your voice actually came through that I could distinguish what it was you were talking about.
My big mouth, is that what you're saying?
No, but you have a very distinct voice that has a depth to it, a timbre to it that's easy to follow. But the softness of the voices eliminates everybody else. So. And I did have 3 letters I had submitted to council and the mayor, but at this time I'd like to wait for a response from staff and from council and mayor, and we can talk about it in January.
I think they're going on the agenda.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to ask you if Gene knew of any systems, if you had any particular systems in mind to help the hearing period.
You know, I wished I did, but I do not. I'm not sure what would work well.
Okay.
But we're almost in a desperate situation for those of us that can't hear, right?
Yeah, well, it's a better room back at the city.
Yeah.
Hall.
I know that the Christian Center Church, they have little portable devices that people that have hearing impaired, they plug in a little bud to their ear and it's a little portable pack that they have with them. I'm not sure if something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know what's available for hearing impaired. All I know is when you wear hearing aids, they're really only good for about 12 feet. And then after that, everything you can see, lips move, but nothing.
So one of the things that a lot of people who don't have built-in dash equipment to play MP3s and stuff have is a little wireless transmitter that transmits on an FM station. And I was wondering whether that might be something that you were talking about, where somebody could actually have a little radio and listen in. Yeah, exactly, a portable device. Yeah, and we would have that in city council. Well, it'd be FM, just like any FM transistor radio. But yeah.
So once again, thank you to all. And Merry Christmas to all.
Before we adjourn, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was going to make a motion to adjourn.
I just have one point of interest, possibly staff could look at this. When we had our inaugural meeting at our new city hall, or existing city hall, we had a problem with the amount of people attending meetings because of capacity. Would there be any possible entertaining thought of having a big screen TV in the hallway for those that are outside to view it and hear it?
Because people in the hall said they couldn't hear.
Yeah, I know, so maybe a big screen TV with captions at the bottom, something on that nature, which would make it so that people aren't discouraged and they read it because they can't hear.
I hear what you're saying. That is the second time in my experience in over 34 years at the city that the room was filled to capacity. The first time, the meeting was recessed and relocated to the high school auditorium, secondary school auditorium. And our inaugural meeting was one, so to put that kind of an expense out for, maybe in future, if there's gonna be that kind of interest in our meetings, we could hold the statutory meeting in another location. As they did the first time I was on council, it has a region, which holds more people.
But does the, let's say, the cost initiative overweigh the fact that you might have citizens losing interest in coming to meetings? Do we have to have another instance like that or two for us to then implement something? Because the cost factor on a, we don't need a 65-inch screen TV.
I would just suggest that the captioning thing, it's a whole other big expense all by itself. You really couldn't do that, so. Not live. That's really expensive.
Yeah. Well, maybe staff could look into.
Yeah, that's the only issue I'm putting forward, to look into it and see what it would, Councilor Ross.
Yeah, I don't want to get into this discussion because our staff have put in a hugely long day, as we have, but more so they have. But there is the option they can sit at home and watch it on YouTube, just live. And then they can actually, if they have questions, they can participate online and we could, maybe staff could pick up, we have a question from this person and they can ask a question virtually. And then they don't have to get in their cars and use fuel to drive here and cold. And then, yeah. you can feel-
The Google technology I use has the ability to have your question answered. Yeah.
So it's not something that we need to look at now,
No.
it's something that's a possible vision for the future.
Right, no, I don't think it's. I'd like to
So do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Yeah.
Motion.